My name is Thomas Clark, and welcome to the Takeoff Podcast, where myself and guests help equip you to bring the peace of God to the place you live, work, learn, and play, all for His glory. Every problem is a discipleship problem. Being a disciple of Christ does not guarantee that we will not have problems. It does, however, give us the tools to face the challenges of life that come our way. My worldview is that Christ transforms culture, and He does it through His followers. The goal of Takeoff is to equip you for movemental thinking when it comes to making disciples. Welcome to Season 3. In this season, we will cover power, authority, how to overcome outrage, and we will discuss the robust gospel. Okay, let's get into it. This episode is entitled Culture Will Never Improve on Its Own, Part 2. In the previous episode, Part 1 of this topic, we discussed the fact, I'm not going to go over everything. I encourage you to engage with the previous episode when you have a chance. But I kind of want to sum up how we got to where we are right now. And so we explained the fact that culture continued to get progressively worse. From the time sin entered into the world through Adam represents all humanity, culture just got worse until ultimately everything people did was just evil continually. And if we think, now I'm talking about contemporary times, if we think things are just going to get better, or we say, I just wish things would go back to how they used to be, well, think about even that statement. How they used to be wasn't the best. Things were getting worse, and they continue to get worse. But then also, you all, if we're honest, we look around, society, culture, life continues to have challenges. Because that's the nature of it. If you don't do anything, you're going to keep getting what we've been getting. I'm a firm believer, and people don't necessarily have to agree with my worldview. That's fine. But everyone does have a worldview, whether you know it or not. We do have a worldview. My worldview is that Christ transforms culture, and that can be misunderstood to think that means everything is going to be perfect. I'm not disillusioned to think that things will be perfect. I know it will not be perfect because this world is fallen. There is sin, and all of us do things we shouldn't do. Yet, the idea of Christ transforming culture, doing it through us, does not mean I'm saying that the world is going to be perfect. It means that a new culture is created. See, I'm not saying that we're replacing anything. The current culture still exists. So it's not about replacing what exists. It's transforming to create what's needed. But the undercurrent of the culture is still there. People's lives can be transformed. Not everyone is going to come into this transformed culture. Not everyone's going to walk into the new kingdom and live and operate as he wants. It's not going to happen. I was sharing with someone last year, or maybe earlier this year, I hit my head on the post of the door of my house, and it hurt. And what I told the person, I said, I'm not a cuss. I don't cuss. I used to. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I sure did. I used to. But thank God for transformation. But the day it hit my head, some words came out. Because the culture was still there. It was still there. I didn't forget how to do it. And I'm not bragging. I'm not proud of it. I'm being honest saying there's some words came out of my mouth. Because it hurt. It hurt. So when we talk about transforming culture, it's an ongoing process. It's an ongoing process. For us, when we talk about worship is going from disbelief to belief that Jesus is Lord in every area of life. Does that mean we got it all together? No. because we have to be honest and identify the areas of our lives in which he is not Lord in our lives. And then there are areas where he is Lord in our lives. So then we work on the areas where he's not. We submit to him. But as sure as we submit to him in those areas where he's not Lord, let him be Lord, there's some areas where he used to be Lord, where if we're honest, he's not. There's some things that we rely on ourselves to do. I didn't let him be Lord that day, the words come out of my mouth. And I'm not proud of it because I'm not a cusser. But I still know how to do it apparently. all I'm saying, you all, is that left to its own devices, the world would not get better. Left to, or absent, I should say, us operating as Christ would have us operate, things will get progressively worse. And we see it. And we can complain or we can do something. I just don't believe we're representing the God of the universe, God who created everything. If I'm talking about followers of Christ now, if our primary thing is to complain or ask for others to come in and do something when we have the greater one living inside of us, I just don't think we're representing him well. If and scripture doesn't bear out that we represent him well if we're asking for others to come in and do something. We don't see it in scripture where he says, come do something. As a matter of fact, when Jesus was about to be arrested and Peter cut off the ear of one of the soldiers who came to arrest him, Jesus put the sword up, man. Because if that was the kind of battle I wanted, I have 12 legions of angels who can come down and do something. It's not about asking, looking for outside help and everything else. No, we have to represent and do something because culture would not just improve on its own. So in summary of what we did last week, to take us forward into this part, I just want to point out how God used order at creation because it's important for what we're doing in terms of creating the culture that's needed. We're still talking about power. We're still talking about authority. We're still talking about overcoming rage. Using what's given to us to build and create was necessary, was needed. So what God did is God created sound first. Sound. Light. He spoke light. After sound came movement. And remember, notice that for everything he did, it allowed for something else to happen. Sound allowed for movement. Movement allowed for separation. There can be no separation of moving land around without movement itself. But then after separation comes order. Things come into order once they're separated. After order comes habitation. Because God would not create the plants and the trees and whatever else to inhabit the earth, absent humans I'm talking about right now, if there's not an ordered environment. He didn't put anything into chaos. Then after habitation came humanity. He did that on purpose. And then he allows us the freedom within his framework to use what's been given so we can do the same thing. Now we can build based on what we have and what's been presented. Our creativity then, you all, in creating and building and even helping culture to be transformed and improved. Will it be perfect? No. But can things get better? Yes. Our creativity images the creativity of the loving triune God when it comes from a loving biblical community and helps unlock the full potential of what's gone before and creates the possibilities of what comes later. In other words, we need each other. We need to be a community. That's what he created. As his Imago Dei, we talked about that before, and we will, in future episodes, delve back into being the Imago Dei, or the image bearers of God. But as his image bearers, we have plurality. I struggle with that word sometimes. Yeah, plurality. We image him in that way, where we need each other. We need each other. And so from that biblical community with a mutual obligation and accountability, that helps us, you all, as we work with others. Because you can't do this by yourself. We were never designed to do this by ourselves, but as we work with others. And In mutual accountability and obligation through biblical community, we unlock the full potential of what came before us. Remember, you all, sound then movement, movement then separation, separation then order. What each one did, it unlocked the full potential that came before it. So once you get order, order unlocks the full potential of separation. You really don't see what separation can do unless you have things put in order. But then that order allows for what comes next. It's habitation. And that's the same thing as God allows us to be creative and to create and do what's necessary. You all, the potential that came before is unlocked, and the possibility of what comes later is seen. We can imagine doing new things. Remember, whatever we create is built on what those before us have created, but it becomes the foundation of what those who come after us will use to create. Because it's not just about us. Our foreparents did wonderful things to lay a foundation. But then we build on that foundation. But then as we build on that foundation, we also lay a foundation for others to build on. Or even build on what we've done based on the foundation that came before us. It just depends on what it is we're talking about, what's going on. But the bottom line is everyone should help build something based on what came before and allow something better to come afterwards. So because of that, you all, culture is how we interpret the world around us and our response to interpretation. How do you interpret? Again, I'm going back to what God did at creation. How do you interpret the order that's there? How do you interpret it? You look at it one way, you say, well, whichever doesn't make another way, you look at it and God looks at it and says, now I can put habitation here because things are in order. See, how do I interpret it? Do I look at it and say, well, I wish somebody would come and do something about it? Or do I look at it and say, you know what, wait a minute. God has given me an opportunity through what I've done, opportunity through what he's created, opportunity through the ingenuity and the people around me to do something significant. Where we live, work, learn, and play. First of all, for disciple making movement, am I making disciples? What am I doing as I meet these people? God's given me an opportunity. Do I take advantage of the opportunities he's given me to find out more about the people, find out what peace looks like to them, and then use my experiences and what we have in common to build on that, to build relationships? Do I help create community, a common unity where I live? So we're not just asking and waiting for the police to come in for some areas. Other areas may not feel you need it, but the way things are going, almost every area says, my gosh, if they come. But I'm not just waiting on someone else to come in and tell us about our community. God put you there for a reason. And that's the thing. Again, he put you there for a reason. And it was not just to have somewhere to lay your head at night. That job was not just a place to get paid. No, he put us there for disciple makers to make disciples. And we have a place to sleep at night. And we get paid if it's the job. And we get an education for school. So because of that, then I look at the world around me and how do I respond to the world around me, how I interpret the world around me. Opportunities. What we create helps make new things possible. Let's drill down this. If you really want peace, P-E-A-C, if you really want peace, remember that as we cultivate peace, Shalom, God's peace, and create new opportunities for Shalom of God's peace, we experience a culture of Shalom of God's peace. We have to cultivate it, create new opportunities for it, and create it, and we get a culture of it. Where I live, where we live, it wasn't always like it is right now. Thank God. Is it perfect? No. Remember, it's never going to be perfect because we're in a fallen world and people have free will and people do the wrong thing. But it's a whole lot better than it was. Because my wife and I intentionally cultivated a culture of peace. At one point, neighbors saw each other but really weren't interacting with one another. Not because somebody was mean and didn't care for one another, but because people lived their lives and kept their heads down and minded their own business. But we began to create a culture of community and peace, where now neighbors are talking to each other, hanging out with each other, and doing things not just in the backyard, in the front yard. And now what it does, anytime someone comes on the block who doesn't live here and they're maybe up to something they should be up to, neighbors notice it now, and people are not afraid to say something, not afraid to do something. And it's clear, no, this is the wrong street for that. This is the wrong street for that. Because as we've cultivated a culture of peace, we create new opportunities for peace to get a culture of peace. Not perfection, but peace. And what it does, it makes peace possible and the norm for the next generation. So now we have kids who grow up on our block not thinking, oh man, it's messed up, but thinking that, no, it's good. It's good. And this is what should happen. This is how it should be. And they don't know anything different than that. Okay, let me illustrate this. I'm going to use a culture artifact of electricity. Okay, I want to help with this and use this culture artifact of electricity. I want you to track with me for a second, okay? Watch this. When you look at key events in the history of electricity, we see how one built on the other. Now, I'm skipping some, so you history buffs, you can fill in the gaps I may miss, because I'm not trying to go year by year, but I want to give us a general sense of how of key events in the history of electricity. So in 600 BC, Thales of Miletus discovered static electricity by rubbing amber with silk, causing it to attract objects. That's 600 BC. So now, what happens in the 1600s? Again, I'm skipping, but I was showing you how one builds on the other. William Gilbert, an English physician and physicist, published the first theories about electricity in his book, De Magnete. I'm trying to say it how he may have said it. But the thing is, he had to build on what happened in 600 BC. 1752, Benjamin Franklin conducted his famous kite experiment, attaching a key to a kite string and flying it during a thunderstorm. This experience proved, watch this, that lightning and static electricity were the same thing. Remember, static electricity was discovered in 600 BC. And up until then, people didn't think it was the same thing. And what he did was prove it was. Now, this was important. One builds on the next. Why is it important? Because 1800, Alessandro Volta, when we get our term volts, how many volts is this? Volta invented the first electric battery. You see how one builds on? You can't get to the battery without the other inventions, without the other things. One builds on the next. 1808, just 8 years later, Sir Hampton Davy invented the first effective light. It's called the arc lamp, which was a piece of carbon that glowed when connected to, guess what? A battery by wires. But if we don't have a battery, we don't have this. You need electricity, the static electricity and lightning and all this to see. Again, one builds on the next. 1882, Thomas Edison built the first electric power plant. It was called the Pearl Street Power Station in New York City. And guess what it did? It provided electricity to about 85 customers in Lower Manhattan. One builds on the other. I hope you see this. One builds on the other. 1889, the Willamette Falls Station, Oregon City, Oregon, became the nation's first AC hydroelectric plant. One builds on the other. Again, I skipped something in history, but I hope you get it. Hope you get it. If you don't like the idea of electricity, think about vehicles. When the Model T car, I just took y'all way back. Some say, what's that? Look it up later. Model T car. What we have now, the vehicles we have now, wouldn't that be possible Had someone not started off with the Model T, the Model T don't exist anymore. But it took someone to start and then build on it and build on it and build on it. Remember, because once we have something, it allows us, you all, to unlock what came before and see the possibilities of what can become next. That's all I'm saying. And the same thing happens as we create, as God allows us to create, you all. When we understand who we are as his imago Dei, his image bearers, the fact that he created us in his image and likeness, and our character and polarity, as well as position everywhere we are, then when we understand who we really are as his image bearers, we'll stop complaining about what everyone else is or is not doing. And we'll begin to want to help others know who they were created to be as well. We'll stop saying, well, when they going to come in and help us? He said, but I'm in you. I'm talking about followers of Christ now. If you ain't following Christ, you can follow him. I'm talking about followers of Christ now. Then we will stop saying, well, somebody need to come and help us, and where they at, and where this group at, or where this entity is at, where's this entity at? He says, but I'm in you. And it's just me. Yeah, it's just me. You have to agree with me, but it's, to me, it gets an insult, or it's insulting. I don't know if God necessarily be insulted, but it's insulting to say that we need others to come in, particularly if they aren't following him, to help us do, be, and have what he says I can empower you through my grace to be able to do, because I made you in my image and after my likeness. 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 17. God says through Paul, if anyone belongs to Christ, there is a new creature. There is a new creation. New creation. The old things have gone, everything is made new. Being in Jesus does not just make us new individually. Actually, when we come into Christ, we enter into new creation. Hope y'all get that. Not just I'm a new creature. No, it's bigger than that. We enter a new creation where everything is made new. In him, the world around us looks the same, but we're in his kingdom. All things are new. All things are new. So we can be free, you all, to live as he created and intended. In him, as we create. This is what the resurrection of Jesus provides. His resurrection provides that to us, provides us with that new life. One of the things that God did then, our triune God, he gave humanity culture-making autonomy. We have that culture-making autonomy. Genesis 1:28, God says through Moses, God blessed them, talking about humanity, and said, have many children, grow a number, fill the earth, and be its master, rule over the fish in the sea, and over the birds in the sky, and over every living thing that moves on the earth. When God created humanity, y'all, he gave us the autonomy to create culture in order to expand his peace with Shalom to the earth. I'm giving you that autonomy to do that. However you elect to do it, you can do it. You can do it. Yes, 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 you can. Now, question, how and why? How do you do it and why do you do it? Well, by creating us in his image and likeness, God created and then gave us freedom within the framework to be creative and rule. He said, here are the parameters. This is what I've done. Using what I've done, what are you going to do with it? Last episode of showed was the negative things people did with what he gave. And was evil continually. Now, what positive things are we going to do with what he's given? This is important, you all, because culture is both a gift from God and what we make of the world. He told us, humanity, through Adam and all of us, to cultivate or to nurture and help grow, prepare, and use the land for crops and or gardening. What are you going to do with it? Let me show you Genesis 1:26. Then God said, let us make human beings in our image and likeness, and let them rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky, over the tame animals, over all the earth, over all the small grown animals on the earth. Humanity, you all, was also told to create. He's the creator. He said, but you can be creative. Genesis 1:28, that first two parts of that verse. God blessed them, and here's how you create. Have many children, grow in number, fill the earth and be its master. So when we have cultivation and creation, guess what we have? We have culture. When you cultivate and create, you enhance, not make better, but enhance, and then we create things that didn't exist as a result of that. culture then is made then. See, unlike God, humanity, you and I, we're never authorized to create or rule the cosmos or the humans. And too many times we're trying to rule over other people. We're not meant to rule other people. But we are, though, expected by God to do is use what he gave us and create what's needed so his world that we oversee can reflect the peace that comes from it being in his kingdom. He says, take what I gave you and help this world be a better place. And I'm not talking about kumbaya. First of all, to making disciples, and then having the justice, spiritual, social justice. Yes, and that's not a misnomer. Doing it the way he said do it. To make this world what it needs to be. That's why we create culture, but not just any culture. We create a culture where Jesus is a Lord. And that's bigger than just a proposition. You go back to the last season, we dealt with that for a couple of weeks, what it means to have Jesus as Lord.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Thank you so much for coming by the podcast page. I really appreciate it. Hopefully the information that is shared has and will be able to benefit you and also the people you know. Listen, if it has been, or you believe it will benefit you, I'm asking you to do me two favors. First of all, please follow. Yeah, click follow. That way, every time a new episode is released, you will be alerted and you can stay current on everything that we're talking about. But additionally, I'm going to ask that you consider supporting. Your financial support goes a long way to help me help others and the work that we're doing in creating the disciple-making movements. For your monthly or yearly support, not only will you receive access to episodes before everyone else does, but you also will, on a monthly basis, have a live Q&A with me where I will be able to answer questions based on the episodes and the questions you may have from what's been shared. There's only so much that myself and my guests can say during the podcast recordings, but during the live Q&A, we can take a deeper dive into questions you may have, ways that we've seen it play out and work out, and perhaps even some suggestions that you may have that we may be able to comment on to help you and help equip you to help bring the peace of God to the places you live, work, learn, and play. Thank you again for following and for supporting. I appreciate it.
But that's why we create a culture. People listen to him and do what he says within the framework of biblical community. We hold each other accountable for that, so he can be Lord. Again, that's major. That's major. That's why we create a culture where his peace is prevalent, because we have spiritual formation conversation with people, our friends, relatives, acquaintances, neighbors, classmates, and coworkers. We call that our Frank list, FRANC. Again, friends, relatives, acquaintances, neighbors, if you're in school, classmates, and those employed coworkers. Those are people you're always doing life with, having these spiritual formation conversations, creating that culture with them. That's why we create a culture where we live a life of worship, from disbelief to belief that Jesus is Lord in every area of life, that we allow him to be Lord in every area. Worship is, for us, is not just where we go. That's praise. Worship is the life we live. The life we live. That's why we create a culture where we live, work, learn, and play. James chapter 1 verse 19 says, my dear brothers and sisters, always be willing to listen and slow to speak. Do not become angry easily, because anger will not help you live the right kind of life God wants. Unlike God, you all, who did not need anything to create, we always begin in the middle. Remember, he was the creator, and he gave us something. Then we create based on what he has, and then we build. So we use what he's given to us and the generation before us have provided. See, not only does each generation of creators benefit from what the previous generation created, but they all created culture and helped countless other people do the same. Remember earlier in this episode, I talked to you about electricity. I went down the line of things electricity has done over the years. But well, let me show you what else electricity has done, you all. People have used electricity to electrocute those who've been convicted. I mean, because again, you took that which started off as static electricity and gave light to people in their houses, and then somebody learned how to harness it. See, without that, you don't even get that. And I'm not advocating electrocutions. I'm just trying to show us how people created culture based on what came before. Some use it to save lives as pacemakers and defibrillators. They use that same electricity. That's electricity. Some created how to harness it and use it so planes can fly. Yeah, planes need fuel, but you know what planes need to fly? Electricity. You can put all the fuel you want on the plane. If there's no electricity, that plane is not going anywhere. You need both. Some have used electricity to help trains move, whether it's the local commuter train or the passenger train that goes from state to state, city to city, all over the United States and other places. Some use electricity to help ships sail. There's all kind of clean energy and different things that these cruise lines, these ships have. But you know what they need? They need electricity. Yeah, they don't have electricity. They have propulsion issues. They have all kind of issues that they can't move. They need electricity. So again, that same electricity that Thomas Edison used and Benjamin Franklin used, that same electricity. Now people have taken and created a culture. So you have a whole travel industry, airplanes, automobiles, cruise ships, trains, the whole industry. It's been created a culture, you all. People travel for business and for pleasure. Why? Because electricity helped make it possible. People use electricity, I just mentioned a moment ago, for electric vehicles to operate. Wow. Yeah, there's a whole industry within an industry. There's the vehicles, but then you have the electric vehicles and the hybrid vehicles and all of that. Because people took electricity and did that. Even the very idea and fact that you are engaging with me now, whatever platform, whatever you're on right now, you know how you can do it? Because of electricity. As I'm trying to show you how you talking about creating, some people don't think about what you mean. Well, these are practical things. I'm telling you how someone took what existed and imagined what could be. Imagine what could be, and said we can do something that future generations not only can use, they can build on that. Yeah, they can build on that. Now, that's an example, you all, of how creation of culture allows so much more to be created. Those are just a few examples. Because that's what we do, you all. That's what we do. Followers of Christ, you all, are encouraged to work together to make this world make sense. Help the world be better, working together. Not fighting each other, not pointing the fingers at one another, not attacking each other. No, let's work together to help the world make sense. Not in the context of the United States having some political ideology and thinking that is the same as Christ and his church. It's not. Let's really work together to make this world make sense. Everything we do should ultimately be very good, and Jesus can help us make the most of the gifts we have received from God. He said, I can help you with that. And I would encourage you all to really lean into this, to live into this. And I have a few questions that I just want to pose to you, to challenge you to see what you're going to do. Because the world culture will not improve on its own, but it can be better. Not perfect, but it can be better. So one of the questions I have is, what are you going to do with the gift or culture you've been given? You've been given a gift. What are you going to do with it? Are you going to look at it and say, well, the police need to come in, or well, I'm just minding my own business? What are you doing with the gift? God laid it out. He had those who came before you to provide what you have. So based on what you have, how are you building on it, and what are you imagining for the future? Where do you see? Where do you see where you live, work, learn, and play? How do you see it being transformed for His glory? Don't think about what you can't do. Think about the possibilities first of all. It starts with the possibility. It starts with realizing that I can take what He's given and do something with it. I can partner with other people who follow Christ, and we can do something. Where can you be used to create something new? And you actually can. The challenge you all I have, and it's always the same, is to create an I will statement based on how you engaged with this week's episode. What do you feel the Lord is telling you to start or stop doing? I will start or stop, and then who you gonna share it with? Because that person is gonna help hold you accountable. I encourage you to drop me a note, share. Let me know if you've been helped by any of this. Let me know if you've been challenged by this. Let me know if there's things you don't understand. Thank you for those who are supporting. I appreciate you. And remember, it's time to take off. Take care.